NSYNC informally disbanded in the early aughts. They're still remembered as one of the biggest boy bands in the world. If you revisit old videos and performances, it becomes clear. People think JC Chasez is underrated as a performer and wonder why he didn't blow up like NSYNC's other lead vocalist, Justin Timberlake. JC had the dynamism on stage.
And this song is called For the Girl Who Has Everything.
Songwriting chops.
Crazy for you.
I'm like the sanity.
Started out in the Mickey Mouse Club like Justin. And had a versatile voice that could float into falsettos or belt into powerhouse runs. So what went wrong with his own attempt at solo success? The common assumptions are that JC's career didn't take off because his solo music was terrible.
Some girls dance with women, knowing that it gives them attention. I wanna get in with them.
It was too sexual.
All day long I dream about sex, and all night long I think about.
It didn't showcase his voice.
I'm like a soda that's been shaken up.
He doesn't have JT's charisma or it factor. He had terrible lyrics.
It's time to out JC's Some Girls Dance with Women for its ridiculous lyrics, unfair premise, and just for trying way too hard.
He wasn't cooperative with his label.
Like, we could set you up with this person and this person. I said, do me a favor. Don't call me.
Yeah.
I'll call you. And they were like, you know what? Okay.
Oh.
You know, they trusted me. They let me do my own thing, and I couldn't be more thankful for that because I got to do my own record.
It was the hair.
Also, maybe chicks were hooking up with each other because they were running from the mullet.
Basically, that it was JC's own fault. Or it was the fans' fault for not buying his music. But both assumptions obscure what happened behind the scenes. Giddy up for this deep dive to learn why JC didn't have a bigger solo career despite having the biggest voice in NSYNC. First, we have to start in the early 2000s, when NSYNC decided to take what was originally planned as a temporary break. In December of 2001, Justin first proposed a group hiatus to his bandmates, according to Lance Bass's memoir Out of Sync. The guys were exhausted from the past few years of non-stop touring and recording. Plus, Justin wanted to work on a solo album, so the guys all agreed to a break. Jive Records, the band's record label, had already begun greasing the wheels for Justin's solo run with Celebrity, NSYNC's third album. The promotion and single choices for that album were heavily centered on Justin, with Justin positioned as the frontman and the only singles released being songs Justin co-wrote. The guys' break was scheduled to begin May 2002 after the conclusion of the Celebrity Tour, and they were given a timetable by the label and manager Johnny Wright to regroup after 6 months. Johnny Wright was now also the manager for Justin's solo career, on top of managing NSYNC. During this interim period, Lance trained to be an astronaut, hoping to earn a seat on a Russian spacecraft to the International Space Station. But those plans were dashed when financing fell through. Joey Fatone added acting credits to his resume, with stints in Broadway musicals and a role in the hit movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
nails and your hair and everything.
Talk about my hair. You are so lazy. You and
Chris Kirkpatrick voiced the character Chip Skylark on The Fairly Odd Parents.
Which is why I dedicated a whole song.
During the downtime, JC hadn't planned on a solo career and was actually thinking of getting into acting too. But it was through working with producer Dallas Austin, who produced hits for Boyz II Men, TLC, and Madonna, on a song for the soundtrack to the film Drumline that JC's creative juices were sparked, and his desire to make a solo album emerged.
And he was like, you know, I'm working on the soundtrack right now, and I still got 2 song slots I have to fill. And me and you are vibing real good. Why don't we just go in there and write something?
Right.
And originally it wasn't supposed to be for me to do; it was just to write. But after I laid the track down, he was like, "You got to do it."
Like, you wrote it, I might as well do it.
You got to do it. We don't want to lose the vibe. So I ended up doing it, and
And
there
it's
it
off
is.
the hook for
The resulting song for the movie, Blowin' Me Up With Her Love, was released as a single in December 2002 and made the top 40 radio chart. When JC premiered the music video for Blowin' Me Up on TRL, he gave a tentative release date for his own solo debut.
And if I get the right collection of songs together, you'll get an album, you know, probably late winter, early next spring.
That's hot.
Like Justin, JC was signed to Jive. Having been NSYNC's home, Jive likely had the claim over other labels to sign the guys as solo artist. As we all know now, Justin's album Justified was a smash hit when it was released earlier that fall. Being the first member out of NSYNC to go solo definitely worked in Justin's favor.
when did you know that you wanted to do a solo album?
Honestly, it's always been in the back of my head. It's always been in the back of my head since I was a little boy. That's why I felt the need to kind of, as an intro to the album on Like I Love You, at the end of the song, I felt the need to kind of let people know I have dreamed about this since I was a little boy. And that I never thought that the success of NSYNC would end up this way and that I would be able to do this.
Because of Justified's success, Johnny extended the hiatus another 6 months as Justin prepared to go on his first solo tour. Even though Johnny admitted in interviews teen pop was fizzling out, he still talked about plans for NSYNC to release an album by late 2003. With the hiatus extension, the fourth quarter of 2003 became a proposed deadline for the guys to submit song ideas for this potential album. JC's record was reportedly finished and ready for a summer 2003 release date with a new title.
Why is it called Schizophrenic?
Because I did a lot of different styles. I basically just did it for fun. It wasn't like, I said, okay, I have to do an album, it has to sound like this, I have to fit a certain image. I just played songs that I enjoyed playing, and sometimes it was reggae, and sometimes it was calypso, and sometimes it was rock and roll, and sometimes it was whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's just all these different personalities came out on it.
However, while promoting his album on talk shows that summer, JC revealed a new drop date.
And the record will be out in October. The first single will be August 11th.
Great. Okay, now
But that was delayed too. At one point, JC didn't even know when his own album was coming out.
You put the record back.
Yeah, it wasn't me, I'll be honest with you, but I guess it was for the right reasons. My record's been done for a couple of months, but the record company feels like, okay, well, we have to set it up the right way and do the proper deal, and me being a musician, I'm like, no, go.
Yeah, come on.
Go. No, go. It's done. Let's go. What are you waiting for?
We have the drop date that we have is October 21st. Is that correct?
You know what? I hope so.
Okay.
It's, as far as that's concerned, as much as I want to kick and scream and say go, again, it's up to the record company of when they think the right time is to put it out. So.
On a guest performance on the Wade Robson project in November, JC said he just wanted to get the music out.
Does it feel good to get that music out? You've been waiting for it, the moment?
I've been sitting in the studio forever. I'm glad it's just out. I don't have to worry about it anymore. People know.
At the American Music Awards, Lance interviewed JC on the red carpet and asked when fans could now expect his album to drop. JC revealed the new date.
No, the album's coming out January 27th, and the single is actually being released to radio as we speak. Like today and tomorrow, they're sending it out.
The January 2004 date approaches and release gets bumped again to February. The single, Some Girls Dance with Women, was released the previous November, but wasn't gaining traction on radio. Admittedly, women at the club dancing with each other to get guys' attention wasn't the catchiest idea. But there was still a big opportunity for major exposure. JC was scheduled to perform his music at the Pro Bowl halftime show in Hawaii on February 8th. There was just one problem. The infamous Super Bowl halftime show incident happened just a few days prior. The scandal dealt a heavy blow to any promotional chances the album still had left. In the wake of the scandal, the FCC, TV channels, and radio stations were clamping down on any content they felt could be perceived as quote-unquote indecent.
The jinx of Justin, overreaction or not, what viewers saw at the Super Bowl is changing what they're going to see at this weekend's Pro Bowl in Honolulu.
So what happened?
NFL called and they'd like you to change the song because they feel like the topic of Some Girls Dance with Women is just a little too much. They want to hear the drumline song. You know, it's exciting. It was in a movie. Da-da-da-da-da. I said, no problem. Do it. They call me back. They go, we're worried about the costumes and everything like that. So costumes, I said, all right, we'll wear some NFL gear. We'll throw the girls in jerseys, football jerseys. They said, you know what? Don't even bother. It's not really the performance we're worried about. It's the lyrics. There's 2 words in the song that we don't like, and I was like, well, what are those? You know, and they said, well, you say the word horny and you say the word naughty. Naughty. I said, no problem. I'll take them out, and then went to bed thinking, okay, all our ducks are in a row. I got up the next day, and my manager calls me up and he goes, you just got pulled. And I said, what? We changed the words, we showed them the tape, we changed the song, we did everything they asked. And he was like, I don't know, that it's just getting too hot. They were kind of like questioning my character, and that's why, they didn't want me to do the Pro Bowl. And I was really disappointed. I have no beef with the NFL. Yeah, I love football, but it just made me feel a little weird that they would say that I'm, I guess irresponsible because of something that I had nothing to do with.
Even with all the changes JC made to his performance, his spot was canned altogether by the NFL.
You know Justin. Did you talk to him?
But he called me up yesterday, and he just said, you know what? He goes, I just want to apologize to you. He goes, I in no way, shape, or form in my wildest dreams thought that this would ever affect you.
Justin apologized to JC privately for his part in JC losing his Pro Bowl performance, but the fallout went beyond a televised promotional spot. Radio didn't want to play JC's music because they were afraid of fines, though his lyrics were tame in retrospect. But if the lyrics were too much of a problem, the label could have given his songs radio edits, or simply chosen other songs as singles. More on that later. Schizophrenic finally saw the light of day on February 24th.
It comes out tomorrow, it's a big deal!
JC intended for the album to be an experimental side project while waiting for NSYNC to regroup.
The title fits the album. It's a schizophrenic record. I mean, I didn't wake up any day and say, okay, well, I need to make, a hit. I need to make a certain sound. I woke up in whatever mood I was in. I made that record that day. And it turned out, one day it was reggae. One day it was rock and roll. One day it was trancey. One day it was straight pop. And that's what was great about this record. I got to explore all these different sides of me that I've been listening to music forever. And I took all these influences, and I wasn't afraid to go out and put myself out there in more than one way, because everybody knows the NSYNC sound. Right. Everybody knows the pop thing. But this is a JC record, and I wanted to do my own record, and I wanted to do my own music.
He even dabbled in electronica with the help of Basement Jaxx, who had him guest on their dance track, Plug It In. During promotion, JC reassured fans NSYNC was not disbanding and that he was looking forward to the group making new music.
First of all, the band's not even broken up. We're just we're taking a break or whatever to kind of explore things, yeah. Because, when you do something for 7-8 years every day, It gets monotonous. It's so in order to break it up to breathe fresh air, we all kind of stepped out and went and did creative things on our own, and we're going to explore them to the fullest extent, and then we will get back together and we'll make our next record.
All right, can't wait for that.
The guys had been told by the label to keep their schedules open for returning to the studio, after all.
My 4 other best friends, they just looked at me. And they said it's about damn time.
I did this record just out of love for music. I didn't try and format it or anything like that, because I've already, everybody's like, aren't you worried about commercial success and da-da-da. I've had commercial success, and I'm thankful for it every day, but this was just out of labor of love. I just wanted to do a great record that I enjoyed, and that's why I did it.
Yeah, check.
Since JC made the album for his love of music, he worked with friends like Alex Greggs, whom he worked with on No Strings Attached and Celebrity, instead of big-name producers. He was also heavily involved in the recording process, co-writing 16 of the album's 17 tracks. Only 2 singles from Schizophrenic were ultimately released, Some Girls and All Day Long I Dream About Sex. The album title and cover art also attracted controversy for its ableist connotations.
Apparently, Schizophrenia Digest Monthly magazine suggested that was a bit insensitive.
Yeah.
Prompting JC to apologize and to clarify he had not intended to invoke the clinical definition of the term schizophrenic. One can say that these songs and album art, along with 2 sexual lyrics, were what ultimately tanked JC's chances for solo success. But this is where record label support should have come in. When labels underpromote an artist or intentionally withhold an artist's music, it's a tactic referred to as sabotage. Labels withhold the artist's music for many reasons. In a BuzzFeed article about why an artist's music is shelved, one of the reasons given is because the label is prioritizing other artists. Says the article, often an artist or band that's been gaining momentum will have to sit on the back burner while a bigger artist takes up a label's attention and resources. That's when an artist starts to enter limbo, trying to vie for their label's attention, a situation R&B singer Cassie knows all too well. At that time, Jive is already banking on big-name stars like Justin and Britney Spears. JC's album was supported with a small club tour, sets at radio festivals, some gigs opening up for Britney on her Onyx Hotel tour.
Back in the day, Brit used to open up for NSYNC and things like that, and she's the biggest pop star in the world now, and I was like, I need to get out on the road and everybody to hear my music, and she was like, why don't you roll out with me? And I was like, absolutely.
And some TV appearances. Contrast that to the support Justin got.
To the show.
Keep looking at me. You're scared now, right? Don't feel me, baby. It's just Justin. Feel good, right? Like I do. You're a good girl, and that's what makes me trust you like I do. Listen. Feel good, right? Listen. Let everybody MTV know I'm really excited about doing the movie awards. By the way, who's my co-host?
From the upcoming movie Hollywood Homicides.
There was also SNL, numerous magazine covers, a massive radio push, a headlining world tour.
The name of the tour is Justified and Stripped Tour.
And oh yeah, Grammy Awards. Did I already include magazine covers? I just felt like I needed to mention it again. It also didn't hurt Justin that breaking up with the world's biggest pop star at the time gave him plenty of potential drama to mine for buzz. Tim Miller, a production manager and sound engineer for NSYNC, talked to Lance about his experiences working on JC's solo tour.
Were you with him during the Schizophrenic, that album? Were you doing the
Yeah.
What was that like? Because, he doesn't really talk about it much, but as, a person on the outside looking in, I did not like how the record label was treating him and his project. I felt like they tanked it on purpose. Did you feel that? Did you feel that the record label was just like not supporting the way they needed to support?
Well, they absolutely didn't support it because musically it was great.
Yeah.
It was kind of eclectic, but it was great, and it was a bummer, because here we are, doing clubs, not selling out clubs, and Justin is selling out arenas and doing those same clubs for fun, for free, and we were trying to eke out a living doing that, and we had such a great band. They just didn't support him. It seemed like they had, for whatever reason, something against him or the project or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but we definitely had no support. We were.
Well, I felt it. I mean, and I, looking in, I'm just like, well, did they want to choose Justin over JC? They only thought one could work, so they put everything behind them.
You heard things like, well, they spent more on Justin's Grammy performance than we got for our entire tour support.
Yeah.
It's that type of stuff, and it's sad because I mean, I listen to that stuff still today. I mean, it sounded good, and the band was so good. Wish it would have turned out different.
I know, yeah, but I mean that's politics, I guess, in this industry. Yeah.
With Jive not spending as much on marketing for JC, the promotion of his album and club shows was largely left up to his devoted fans. Fans rallied the best they could with what they had at the time, calling into radio stations, posting on LiveJournal and Yahoo groups, and buying multiple copies of his CD. JC's fans speculated at the time he was being sabotaged by Jive because of all the delays and scaled back promotion. Alex Greggs confirmed what fans had suspected about the label when he discussed the making of Schizophrenic in a podcast interview.
When you're working with JC and his album, can you talk about the difference? It seems like was there an effort to go in a totally different direction than Justin went in?
Yes, and the label said that right off the top. They said, "Do not make an album that sounds like Justin's record," and for obviously reasons. But they wanted it to be very different than Justin's.
Another reason artist music is shelved? A reorganization of staff at the label. In 2002, Jive Records founder and creative mastermind Clive Calder had sold Jive to BMG, leaving Barry Weiss to take over. The sale of Jive to BMG meant a shakeup of management and staff at Jive Records. Alex discussed how Clive's departure from Jive impacted JC's solo career.
And now, Clive was just about to sell the company, so the last conversation I had with Clive was, he said, look, when I signed NSYNC, I knew I was getting three things. I was getting a group, and I was getting 2 solo acts out of it. He goes, Justin's the light bulb that burns twice as bright, but half as long. He's like a Michael Jackson. He's just going to be bang, 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 bang. But he won't be that long-term artist. And I thought that was a weird thing to say until the next sentence. He goes, with JC, I got like a Sting, Richard Marx type of artist who might not sell as many records, but will be a long burn. So both successful, just Justin will be quick and fast in your face, and JC will be more of the slow burner. Now, that didn't happen. Justin, his light bulb was twice as bright, but he lasted just as long. And JC's career dramatically got shifted right after that conversation when Clive had sold Jive and Barry Weiss had kind of taken over. And Barry was very into the urban sound. That's, he was overseeing, the R. Kellys and the P.D. Pablos and all the other, urban jive acts, and loved the Justin record because it was an urban record. So Barry was coming from an urban mentality.
Alex said the song Some Girls Dance with Women was written as a joke and was not expected to make the album, much less made a single.
That got put in the little pile of songs that we sent to Jive. We just kind of wanted to show we were, we just sent them everything so they didn't think we were doing nothing. And Barry was like, this is it. This should be the single. And we said, well, we got some more in the works. And he goes, no, this. And Barry was thinking on an urban side, which Clive had, said, don't do it. And Barry was also like, don't do urban, but he just couldn't help himself. He heard an urban track, and I don't know, he disliked it. And we were like, well, we don't really want the song on the album, to be honest, because it was supposed to be kind of a joke and more of a play on like, hey, it's funny.
While Some Girls had the urban sound Barry liked,
Rockstar, keep it going.
All Day Long was a party anthem that channeled Duran Duran. All Day Long was chosen by the label as the second single in the hopes that its synth rock sound, which was becoming popular then with bands like The Killers, would help differentiate JC from Justin. So JC was getting conflicting direction from Jive.
It's like it's easy for us to play, look at this back in retrospect and say, oh, it should have been this way or whatever. But I guess that really makes a lot of sense, that it being like you're trying to differentiate it from Justin's record, and then the directive that you're getting down from the label now and saying that they want to go in this direction, even it's something that you're like, we're not sure about this. So that really paints a better picture for us, like to really, find out more behind the scenes of what was going on.
Yeah, we were getting conflicting direction from the label. Don't do urban, but we like this urban type song you guys did. We were getting kind of two things going at the same time, and we couldn't really please anybody. It was either too different or it was too urban and sounded close to something Justin might have done. And which is funny later on, because then Sexy Back comes out with the same type of non-melodic, distorted party vocal. When Sexy Back came out, it just kind of reinforced that, okay, a pop song could be like that, But Justin had already in his previous singles established his vocal ability.
So what happened when Jive heard an early version of JC's record?
About the cover and everything, it seemed like there was two different worlds. Like there must have been a huge difference in the marketing budgets that they had. Is that an accurate assessment on my part?
Yes. They heard what JC's album was going to sound like, and it was all over the place, and they didn't have the confidence in the record that they did with Justin's. So that also hurt us in a way. We're about halfway through the record at this point. And what we wanted to do was start spreading the wings. Okay, let's get some other songs with other producers and stuff like that. Well, let's bring in some new hot guys, And the budget wasn't quite there, and they weren't quite excited about that because they felt, the little team that we had was capable enough. We didn't have the access to the resources that we thought we were going to have that Justin had. And also at that time, the record industry was starting to change. So spending a lot of money wasn't before it was like we could spend all the money we want because we're selling tons of records. But with the JC album, they thought, well, he's not going to sell as much as Justin, so let's not blow the same amount of money that we did on Justin's record on JC's, because it's not going to be as high as a good rate of return on the investment. This is where art and corporate start colliding, right? It hurts you as an artist when you sense that your label is not that confident about your project when you're not even done it. You're like halfway through it, because now you're feeling like, oh, great. It's like, it makes you not as excited about your own work, and it's scary as well. JC basically made a decision that, like, if Jive isn't going to be 100% behind his record, that he was going to make a record at least that he wanted to make. JC's not a person that says that he doesn't like the idea of let's make a hit song. JC is more of let's make a great song that we love, and if it happens to become a hit, then that's great. But he wasn't writing anything going, I'm going to write a hit song. He was more of, I want to write something that I've always wanted to write and try styles that I always wanted to write. Because now the label isn't on his back. They're almost letting him do whatever he wants because they're just like, well, we know we're not going to sell as much as Justin, so we'll just give more control to JC and, keep him happy.
JC now had artistic freedom, but the label had already made a decision about who to throw their financial support behind.
There was a much different expectation between the two records. At the last minute, it felt like, Jive had kind of abandoned any hope of it being a smash record, so we'll just kind of let them do what they want and if it fails, we didn't lose as much money, and if it sells, we'll make money. As of with the Justin record, it was a very high confidence financially that there would be a good return on it, and Justin would do the whole game of promoting the record in a way that Jive wanted. And Jive also knew that JC was not the type of self-promotion type of artist.
Jive's inattention towards the marketing for Schizophrenic extended to the album art.
But when the album cover was shown, I don't think anybody was really happy with it, but it was Jive's was more in the thing of like, it's good enough, that's cool, and okay. But nobody was really jumping up and down. Like, JC came up with the concept, but the concept didn't quite go on photo or paper how he had it in his mind. It looked kind of photoshopped and, but at that time, JC, he wasn't the big star that could demand, I want to redo the album cover. It was more like, it's good enough, JC, don't worry about it.
On a last note, Alex pondered what could have been if Clive had stayed on at Jive for just a bit longer.
Jive went through a major shift in staff and values and vision when Clive left. It's like if Clive had stayed there like 6 months longer when we made that record, I think the JC record would have been phenomenal, because Clive was, he wouldn't let anything come out half-assed. He would have definitely said, no, who do you guys want to do other songs with? Let's put them on. Let's spend the money. He really listened to his artists, and if Clive was there and JC said to Clive, I'm not happy with the cover, or I don't want this as the single, Clive is the type of person that would listen and most likely would educate JC or myself or anybody else on a decision that didn't make sense to us. He was great at that. If we didn't like something or didn't understand it, he would give an explanation why it should be this way, and 99% of the time he was right. But with the shift in staff at Jive, there wasn't that one driving force or visionary. Barry was good at his job, but he wasn't Clive Calder.
As if having no label support wasn't already bad enough, JC also had to deal with his songs being leaked by Jive without his knowledge. A fan that went to JC's listening parties and solo shows shared her experience.
I was at a listening party for Schizophrenic at 102.7 Kiss FM back in the day, and this was when 30-second clips of every song on Schizophrenic was placed on ratethemusic.com, which was a website where you could listen to clips of songs and rate the music. But the thing was, JC and Eric did not know this happened. So Jive put out 30-second clips of every song on Schizophrenic. And then when I went to a listening party, JC played Schizophrenic, of course. And we were all singing along to the singles. And everything was lovely and it was all fun. But then the singles went off. And when songs like She Got Me came on, and we weren't supposed to know the words to those, and yet I knew the words to like the first 30 seconds, JC was like, how? He looked so bewildered. I saw him and Eric talking in the corner because I was the only one that kept singing. So I was just singing and singing. And then Eric comes to sit down next to me. He whispers to me. He was like, how do you know the words? So I look at Eric and I'm like, why is his manager asking me how do I know the words? Didn't his manager know how I know the words? So I told Eric they were placed on Rate the Music, all the songs. So we have the first 30 seconds of all the songs. And I literally told his manager brand new information. Why was I, a 16-year-old fan, telling his manager information he didn't know? And there were several events like this that happened back in the day during Schizophrenic where the fans would find out information before JC would. And he would look like a liar Because he would be telling radio stations, I promise Schizophrenic won't be pushed back again. Things like that. When we knew already that the album had been pushed back. Like, they really did him dirty. They left him in the dark about a lot of stuff that he as an artist and Eric as a manager should have known. People don't realize how rough it was for JC at the time because no one told him anything. And because the internet was not big, he didn't know where to go or how to look for this stuff. If he just went to JJB, he could have saw for himself information about his album that he didn't know. How sad is that?
Going back to the issue of single choices, the label knows singles are what hooks the public's attention to an artist. Why did they decide on 2 of the raunchiest songs as singles? There were so many other tracks on the album that were ideal for radio.
It's relatively explicit sexually.
It's funny, people will say, you're thinking about this and you're thinking about that. You know what? There's a lot of songs that don't talk about it too, but it seems like everybody gravitates towards those.
Right.
JC's whole album and its artistry became overshadowed by the single's raunchy subject matter. It was all the press wanted to talk about, besides comparing JC to Justin.
Just because obviously your good friend Justin Timberlake has done so incredibly well for himself.
No, man, Jay is a superstar. We all knew that.
A smart thing for the label to do would have been to choose a ballad as a single, since ballads are what JC is known among NSYNC fans for. There were rumors the ballad Build My World would be the 3rd single released from his album, and he even performed it at the Miss Teen USA pageant. But by the fall of 2004, promotion for Schizophrenic had abruptly ended. Meanwhile, the rest of NSYNC was still waiting for official word on whether Justin was coming back to the band so they could record new music. At that point, it had been a little more than 2 years since he first suggested a hiatus to the guys. Despite the grounding of a space mission, Lance was looking forward to the band returning to the studio and had been doing some songwriting of his own. Justin had been tight-lipped to the press about the possibility of NSYNC reforming. At one point, he said the band was just waiting on the end of JC's solo promotional run. At other points, there were signs of Justin having moved on. So what was the truth? The guys were due to hash out the details of the band's future in summer 2004 at their annual charity event. It was there that Justin broke the news to his bandmates he wasn't returning. Lance and Joey have both since reflected on the news of the breakup.
The thing I was most disappointed in was not just Justin leaving the band. It's that our whole team, our record label, our management, everything like that, they all knew it was over for 3 years.
And you didn't
before they told me. And so for 3 years, I'm sitting there getting ready for a new album as everyone else knows we're moving on. And so I turned down, I had a sitcom I was doing, had to turn it down. That's all kinds of stuff that I really wanted to do and focus on, but I knew I couldn't because, my first commitment is NSYNC. Like, this is my life.
We were young and we were like, all right, cool. We didn't know any better at first. Then it became when the songs came out, they were like, fuck, they're really good songs. And they're like, okay, well, now he's going to go on tour. We're like, okay, well, after you go on tour, we're going to get back and we're going to write, right? We're going to sit down. And they were like, yeah, no problem. Jive with everybody, the record company. Yeah. And then when they got the momentum of that album and the tour, they were like, well, I think we're going to have Justin go out a little more longer than that. And then it just became, and I finally was like, here's the only, and I even said it to all the guys and everybody. I said, listen, I'm all good with everybody doing their own shit. I'm totally fine with it. Just let us know next time. Meaning I could have done a lot more shit than sit around waiting for your dumbass while you're going out on tour. I could have, honestly, because the minute we finally parted our ways in a sense of a group, I was like, shit, I went and did Broadway. I did Rent on Broadway. I did Little Shop of Horrors. I started doing things because at first I was waiting because I know when you're doing an album and you're doing stuff with a group, it takes a long, it's a process. So it was interesting. I was just like, dude, just let me know next time. I said, because next time I ain't waiting for nobody.
JC was open to continuing the group as a quartet then, but Chris didn't want to continue without Justin. And JC thought the group wouldn't work as a trio. If JC knew NSYNC was breaking up for good as early as 2002 when the hiatus first began, One wonders if his solo trajectory would have played out differently.
If your solo project goes well, would you consider staying on your own?
Well, you know what? My whole thing is it's really up to the guys. Like, you know, whatever happens in the NSYNC future, it's up to all of us. You know, I can't make a decision for the whole group. You know what I mean? I got my record. You know, this is my solo record. I have it. It's physically in my hand, so it's like, and now I can say I've done it in my life. But you know what? I'm easy going. If the guys call me tomorrow and say, "All right, let's get to work on another record," you know, I'll be down.
He's easy going.
Jay-Z's album and club tour received positive reviews from outlets like the New York Times, San Francisco Chronicle, and Rolling Stone. But all of that critical praise gets lost when the artist isn't being promoted on radio and TV. As for the claim the lyrics and music on the album as a whole were just bad, I'll wager that people who say the music was bad haven't really listened to the album aside from the singles. And the guy who came up with the concepts for Digital Get Down, Space Cowboy, The Game Is Over, No Strings Attached, is not a bad songwriter, period. You might assume this is the point where Jay-Z threw in the towel and said bye-bye-bye to a solo career. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, it was the start of a whole other story. The story of Kate, that is. Yep, there was a whole other album in progress. And Jay-Z worked on it with none other than Justin. Stay tuned for part 2 of Dirty Poplitics.